Ready?
Okay, so I didn't get an opportunity to talk about Red, in design anyway, and we're on Soul Asylum now, which I'll go over these in a second, because they bug me. But hey, so, Red. I had the Grim Reaper in mind when I designed Red. No, you clearly didn't.
He has a scythe.
I gave him bags under his eyes and a sharp scythe to give him an evil look. The white lines, which... Nope, there aren't any, no white lines at all, are supposed to look like bones, and although it may not be the most original idea, I made the center of his torso look like a face with the pointed shoulders being sharp horns. Which... No. So, anyway, it's the boss refights, and in these refights, I used this opportunity to, show off the weakness weapons, so... Oh my god, I don't even remember the name of this one. I think it's just like Volt Tornado.
Something like that.
Thunder Tornado. It's something. It's a tornado. And this one is actually practical against him because for the most of the fight, you'll be preventing his advance. So basically, as soon as you put it up, it's a shield that'll bounce him backwards. So it's good for tanking through it, but it's just a lot slower and less dynamic. On the bright side, it's at least one of the cooler electric weapons, which... That sucks because it's coming from Tornado Tunyon, so it just shouldn't be. But there's that. I'll show off the chart shot in a moment. Just want to see if there's any design notes on Warfly. No, actually, I've gone over all the boss notes already. Oh, there is notes on the Glide Armor, though, that I can go over right now.
Yeah, go for it.
I think. No, there's not. Maybe there are. I'm just going to go through the active design notes for this one. By the time I joined in, X7 was already well underway. I was mainly responsible for designing the central characters and supervising the modeling. Since the project was already on its feet, I chose to lead the design aspect in a direction that basically took after Suigetsu's art from X6, which does show, actually.
The project was well underway when I joined.
In charge of the main characters. I think a lot of that might be because you need to... Okay, so, this chart shot real quick seems to either absorb damage, projectiles, contact, or any combination of those and actually produce health, which actually isn't bad. That's not the worst idea, and in a game like this where health is hard to come by, if you're aware of that and you get the Buster and the Tornado weapon early on, I could see that saving you. I got it last. So, I can't really speak for its utility, and X is such a tank at this point that it doesn't really seem worth using.
Especially in the refights.
Yeah, so, thank you. We're gonna Oh! No, I'll go over that in the next arena. But yeah, so, Did I use a sub-tank in that fight?
No.
Okay, I didn't use a sub-tank. But I did use a sub-tank in the previous level. So, these...
This is still the same level.
You know what I mean, in the previous area. I used a sub-tank, and I just picked up that full heal. And I think I check it now to confirm, but even if I don't, I do. So the sub-tank that I used got fully filled too. So what that implies is that full heal fully heals you, including used sub-tanks. I don't know if it fills both of the two sub-tanks if both of them are empty, but even still, that negates the refights. The refights are usually... arguably bland, depending on who you're talking to. I don't mind them. I understand that it's part of the gameplay, like it's supposed to show off your power, it's a gauntlet. It works a little bit better for most people if it's Mega Man 1 or X1 styles where they're part of the stage progression instead of one here's 8 teleporters thing. I get that. But this one removes every aspect of it. In all of the other ones, the challenge that's still left over is that you have limited health resources to work with. There are always some form of healing item in the stage, and in some of them you can control what you're getting, like the weird capsule damage thing from X3. But you still kind of have to manage your resources and understand that, like, okay, if you use a sub-tank, you're probably not going to be able to fill that up again unless you've got, like, a farming area afterwards and want to spend the time on this. In this, you can go through 3 full health bars and not have any detriment from that whatsoever the moment the boss fight is over. So nothing in here is actually threatening, because at this point in the game, if you lose after a full health bar and 2 full health tanks, you shouldn't even be this far in the game to begin with. Because it's not difficult anymore. You're too much of a tank, and your Buster does too much damage by default. So I don't understand that. And, like, part of me appreciates it, because it means I don't have to put up with this garbage for much longer with any kind of opposition, but the game designer and, like, game theorist in me just hates it so much, because it's like, well, then why? Why? Like,
Tradition. It's nostalgia.
but none of it is traditional. Like, nostalgia, maybe, but nobody's really nostalgic for that over the game being good. And it's not. So, it's superficial and I hate it. So, he's weak to Circle Blaze. Circle Blaze is one of the most range-limited weapons in the game outside of Explosion, and it might be equal to Splash Laser, which... Great, Splash Laser. Its Charge Shot doesn't really seem to do anything different to him, and it only actually has the blazing circle effect if it makes contact, which then doesn't even really do anything on time. Like, you'll hit him with it, and then he'll fall away from it while the explosion is still going off, so there's not even really an additional effect to it. It's just stupid. And, like, he'll lock onto it. Once that explosion is there, it's a physical object, so if he's charging towards a physical target, he'll, like, circle around it and try to damage it. And he thinks that the projectile is a thing that he should be running into. Then, there's other instances of using it where he'll get knocked back from it 2 times in a row, even though he's not near the actual blast radius anymore. And I don't know if that's intentional or a bug, or
I'm going with the
what?
bug.
Yeah, like, who knows? It's all basically the same.
Especially since he repeats his dialogue from it.
What else do we have here? I drew the package illustration for X7, but the character portraits were divided up within a small group of people, including Suigetsu. Based on the concept art from the design team, I made sure to maintain overall continuity, so I don't think most people will be able to pick out any differences in the pieces done by different people. So this is just different art styles and different artists talking. Oh, that's kind of a good note. What's worse is that, for the most part, I agree with everything Inafune is saying in here. It's just this end product is hard to take seriously. So he's got a note, is... My personal opinion was that 3D is simply a graphic style, and just because a game is going 3D like X7 was, it doesn't mean we, quote, have to make it a 3D game. I think the team figured that out while doing X7, because by the time we did X8, the graphics were still 3D, but the game itself had returned to the traditional gameplay of the 2D Mega Man era. So, in a way, he's basically just saying, like, we fucked up, but the next one's 3D and it's good, so... It's still, look, we can do it, but, you know. So, since I hadn't mentioned it before, and since there's really nothing new to add to this fight, since I already showed off its weakness weapon, these aren't even remakes of the boss fight arenas. These are literally just the exact same boss fight arenas from the actual stages.
Just tinted a little bit.
I don't even think they're tinted.
No, they're tinted.
I don't think Warflies was.
Warflies was redder and darker. But that's it. It's not like...
So clearly it's not even good enough, because I didn't notice. So that's Gaia Shield's charge shot, and it doesn't really do anything different to him. The hilarious thing about this, and what would make it a good weakness weapon if it did damage worth even half a shit, is that it bounces him around. So he'll progress towards you, and normally you have no option but to run away unless you want to just tank through it, which you can by all rights do at this point. And this just prevents him from getting close to you, which I like that as a reaction if you're going from the pure damage stun-locking route, but look at how little it's doing to him over the course of this fight, and the moment I go back to using the Buster, it's just faster, and clearly the correct way to go in every way. Granted, I miss a whole bunch, but... like, the payout isn't enough, and I mean, maybe the damage is about the same, but the hit amount isn't, so no matter what, you're doing less over time. Got another.
And like half the time, it feels like you couldn't even beat the bosses if you landed every hit with their weakness weapon.
Yeah, that actually is a thing, because I think there were a couple either practice runs or runs in this where I did land every hit with the weakness weapon, and it only did like half a bar of damage to them, which... what's the point? Like, you're not negating it, and it's... you could make the argument that it's kind of like using Darkhold in X5 or Flash Stopper in Mega Man 2 against Quickman, where the effect is such that it makes it really easy, but you only have enough time using that weakness weapon, or enough usage out of the weapon, to do a half bar of damage. So at that point, it's a question of like, okay, I've safely whittled them down to the point where I know the weakness weapon will finish them off. Now is the correct time to use it. And that's problem solving and interesting. and not just the weapon is bad, because if the weakness weapon is I can stop time and you could kill them in one shot of it, that would be boring. So there are instances where that's okay. This is not one of those instances. This is just all of them have too much HP, and all the weakness weapons, with the exception of Explosion, do way too little damage and have so little of an effect on making the fight easier that it's just not worth the effort.
The refight area looks neat, at least.
I like this refight area. I'm sad that it's wasted on this. I think the cyber gravestone things are neat, and the song, Soul Asylum, I only remember that because it shuffles on and it makes me uncomfortable, is actually good and kind of creepy. It's just, it doesn't lend itself to the rest of the game, so it's a waste. There's another design note in the book that I'll read since we'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time. I'm such a big fan of the entire X series. I had a lot of thoughts about X7 as I was heading into it. Since we were going into 3D, I wanted to re-examine the overall concept. I was hoping the entire team would be willing to rethink the game like they did when they first did X1, but it had already progressed into 3D with such ideas left behind. I love that the art book notes are basically all just veiled apologies. Because, like, everybody... Okay, that's it for the X7 notes, unless I dig through the back for, like, old-school concepts, which I could do, but not gonna bother. Yeah. So, Pro-Rang's weakness is Sniper Missile, which is probably one of my least favorite weapons in the game, because even outside of being kind of, like, undamaging and shitty like all of them tend to be, it's also really boring. Like, it's not really a concept that you would have at this stage in the game series, because it's literally just a homing missile. We did that in X1. Like, you could come up with other stuff by now, especially, again, like, we talked about it in Anteater's stage, like, there's better weapon options for him if you really wanted to think about it, especially in 3D space. So they didn't really capitalize on it. The problem with this, though, is that they're supposed to be homing weapons, and they don't fucking home in on him. And his is a boss fight where his gimmick is that he will be predominantly in the background, because he's taking advantage of the 3D space on a 2D plane, which I like as an actual idea, but that means that his weakness weapon should be something that can hit him easily in the background, and the homing missile makes sense thematically with that, except it doesn't fucking do that 90% of the time.
Not even the charge shot does it. It's just fucking...
So, once again, you're left with the Buster being the better option, because the Buster does hit him in the background. So it's not even a detriment to start, it's just something that should be made easier, and it fails at that. And then when you do land with the missiles, they don't do enough damage to justify all the effort in the first place. So, unless you're really interested in doing a weakness weapon run, it's just another instance of, god damn it, this is just all a dismal letdown. And that's just gonna be all of these. Just, except, again, Explosion, all of these are just gonna be like, look at how dumb this fucking weakness weapon is. I'm already losing my voice. At least we're past the halfway mark.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like about this is none of them should be in the foreground.
Right.
All of them should be in the background so you can see where they are. Because
like,
it should just be like...
readily visible as you spawn it.
Yeah, because it's not like the hub needs to be any kind of like mysterious or difficult. Just let me see where they are. And in fact, at this point, you could like color code them or something to make sure that they're all visible, which is another thing X8 does. But, you know, we'll talk about that. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know someone in the thread will be like, well, actually, they have that. Which, I appreciate your input. That is nice. So, Snipe Anteater is weak to moving wheel. I think we talked about this in his actual fight.
Yeah, we showed it off,
but since we're talking about all of them, I'll address it again. And it's the same as Pro Rank. Like, you have a clear thing of what's supposed to be happening here, and it fails. So with Pro Rank, he'll go into the background, and the homing missiles won't home in on him. In this, he'll walk to the other side of the tube, maybe someday, eventually, if he ever does anything other than spin around in place, and you would think that the ground-hugging rolling wheel would roll around the circumference of the tube to get to him, and it doesn't. Not that you would be able to aim it in the first place. So, it's like, all kinds of fucked. So, like, on the one hand, you've got the weapon that does little damage, moves slowly, and is hard to aim. Then it's not doing its job. Then the charge shot doesn't really enhance anything either because it just kind of lobs out two extra ones that bounce instead of roll. So that's not even better. And then you can just do this. Like, again, the Buster is just superior in every possible way.
And remember, Axel's gun can't do this, and Zero has a sword.
So unless they've got a weapon or a gun or a sword technique that can go through, then they're fucked for like most of this fight. Also, check this shit out. This is an enclosed tube room that you're in, and I know that because when the camera moves now, you're gonna see the fucking outside wall of it because I was too close to the end. It's not like you'll ever see that in normal gameplay, but hey, make it a closed shape anyway.
Cutscene?
Oh, you know what you do? You do see it in the cutscene, but just turn back face calling on.
Or just...
Or remove it from the not cutscene version. Just anything to show that you gave.
Or don't even muddle it and just use the back end for the cutscene.
Just anything. We're almost there, guys. Sort of. Because there's still an episode after this. But, the refights anyway, which are exhausting for us now, too, at this point. But hey! We get this asshole again! And there's really not going to be a lot different this time around, so mostly I'm just sorry you have to deal with it. So, I know that I already mentioned it, but you need to hit them in the bull in the legs in order to make it stop. Luckily, aim assist will lock onto them if the clones are just screaming into your face. But there's not any visual feedback, so just make sure you know for a fact that it has stopped before you start climbing it, because I've delayed, or I've done it too early, where I've jumped thinking that it was stopped, or thinking that it was going to stay stopped, and then it takes a step forward, I go underneath it and die, and just nobody wants to deal with that. So just play it safe, there is enough time. He's weak to Splash Laser, and in this instance, it's really difficult to hit him without taking damage with it. There's two ways that this fight will work, and the irregular version shows it off completely, so it's not like you won't see it anywhere. Go check it out if you want to. The real benefit to Splash Laser, and benefit is a very loose term, is if you're on the back, he'll run forward, and the two pack clone tri-formation assholes will come up and they'll all run around you in a circle, and you can only damage the real one. You can erase the other two. If you erase both of them, he'll just make more. So, ideally you want to kill one, and that way there's just a little bit less to deal with. While he's there, he's spinning around you kind of like Rydborski will do, which sucks. I like that charge shot almost. He'll circle you like Rydborski in a way, so your normal shots will be too slow to hit him. And it is a really manic, difficult fight in that instance, which is why it's better to just stand on the neck and win, because why would you not do it this way? The only reason I didn't is because it didn't look like it was working and I didn't know to try it. Splash Laser has enough projectile going on that he'll actually run into it sometimes before it's fully splashed out.
Right.
And it will knock him down and kind of reset it, so it's a little bit closer to a traditional X stun lock than some of the other weapons will be, and it helps cut down on how violently stressful that type of the fight is. But then just stand on the neck. So it really doesn't matter. His weakness is standing on the neck.
Especially when you're so buffed out that
you can just like, yeah, like, I took more damage from the desperation portion of Snipe Anteater's refight than I did in the entirety of that fight, and I was literally standing under a literal rainstorm of missiles. And it's just like, nobody checked anything. I'm convinced that just, like, it's a normal, jokey thing to talk about, like, did anybody even QA this game? And that's usually insulting because I actually do game testing, and it's like, no, we tried, we're sorry, but this one really feels like there just wasn't anything to it. And honestly, if there was QA, I'm scared to think about what it would have been like when it was still actually buggy.
I mean, to be fair, it's not a buggy game,
except when it is, but
it's just a mostly unbalanced and unenjoyable game.
Poorly designed, yeah, so, I don't know, I guess I'm talking QA from like the quality. Yeah, the quality angle where it's like, this isn't fun, you guys should change this, and granted, from experience, most of the time they'll just be like, well, that's how it is, deal with it. But I feel like when it's the whole product, after 9 other games, you'd be like, alright, let's
focus testing. Should be like, no, this is...
Yeah!
The fuck did you do? This is wrong!
And it is literally wrong. So, he's weak to...
Jehuti.
Yeah, Jehutis. weapon. What is it actually called? Is it like wind boomerang or something?
I think so.
Wing cutter, I think. Well, anyway, it's weak to Wing Crowrang's weapon, and it sucks. It makes him do his stupid Zero-esque "guh" sound. And even though it's another kind of vaguely homing weapon, it sucks at hitting him.
Yeah.
So, like, well, the normal shot isn't really supposed to be homing, it just comes back to you, which is shitty, that serves no purpose, whatever. But the charge shot actually does have some pretty decent homing abilities, so again, it would make sense against the mobile boss, except it doesn't fucking do its job, just like all the other ones. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about these these fights and the weakness weapons, is that all of the designs actually make sense for once. Like, almost all of them are actually conductive to the boss fight in theory, but none of them actually are in execution. And it's one of the only games outside of, like, the original ones where that's the case. So it's like, you're literally right there, and you didn't actually do it. And at least for the other ones, it's like, alright, maybe they were struggling to think, like, alright, well, what weapon are we going to give this boss? Okay, this is the only one left without a weakness, throw it on him. And it's like, well, you didn't design around that. But at least it's all bad. Or, like, at least there's maybe an explanation. But this one across the board is like, we got a great idea! And then they all just fall on their face.
Let's not capitalize on anything.
And, like, that's worse to me than having a shitty weakness weapon overall, because it's like, you can see it. And just the whole time you're looking at it, you're furious about it. He's like, why aren't you doing your job? Just do what you're clearly supposed to do. Which this one will actually kind of do, which really blows me away that the laziest looking, functioning, named weapon is the only one that is actually any good. So if we ever do a list, Explosion wins by default, I guess, which, god damn it, why does Explosion win by default?
Hey! It still sucks because it doesn't hit him while he's up there.
Yeah, and that's the instance where it should, but I think the real strength to it here is that it's also pretty decently good at destroying his items, which technically make the fight a little easier, and it knocks him away from you, so you can kind of use it as a shield when he's charging at you.
I think the only reason why it's actually good in this fight is because it's so slow.
That it's hitting him multiple times.
Like, that's the only reason why it's actually good.
That's the other problem, though, is naturally the only one that's actually any good
has, like, shit for ammo.
Yeah, especially if you're using the charge shot. And this one does something irritating that is present in the other games, but I think is the worst in this one. It looks like you'll still have enough ammo left over to use the weapon, and you can't. And unlike the other ones later in the series, so like the PS1 era, it doesn't tell you how much shots you have left. Which, again, is a feature that they added. Why did you take it away?
So, at the very least, why isn't the charge shot ammo a simple multiplication of the regular shot
Something
ammo?
that will always give you a method of using it.
Yeah.
Like, to empty. Like, there should never be ammo left on the bar that you can't use.
Hey, Honcho, I'm here to defeat you.
Why, you? Red gave you a home and this is how you repay him? You worthless upstart!
Dude, your breathing's getting heavy. Calm down. Anyway, in a way, this is exactly how I'm repaying Red.
Oh, you brat! I ought to take the likes of you and a duel! Just you and me, yeah!
Are you guys remnants of the road attackers?
Oh, how dare you group us with those punks! You'll get it for this!
Oh, so you must be the Road Riders then.
Why, I oughta... You!
Stone Kong. How could you, of all people, do such a thing?
We have already strayed from the path. Now, all we can do is stay true to our beliefs, wherever they might lead us.
But what Red Alert is doing is wrong!
I know that. Both you and I know they are being manipulated. I fight for loyalty. Ready yourself.
You're something else.
So, you are Zero, the grace of whose attacks is like no other. I am Stone Kong. I live only to fight, just like you.
No, there's more to life than fighting.
Silence! I've never seen a battle reploid as perfect as you. We shall have the fight to end all fights. On guard!
This isn't like you, cooped up in a place like this. I thought you'd fly straight at me, full force.
So, you're never coming back.
You know my answer to that.
You never change, do you?
Before I destroy you, let me ask you a question. What is your real purpose? It can't just be getting Axel back.
I want to see. See if the Reploid that fascinated him so was really all that great. So, let's see what you're worth. I've been waiting for you, traitor.
You coward!
Prepare to feel pain. I hated you from the very beginning.
Well, that makes two of us.
Why, you brat? You'll pay for this. You've made it this far, but this is the end of the line.
Your battleship lies at the bottom of the sea. Don't you think it's about time you made your escape?
Idiot! This is all according to plan.
What?
You've turned this into the ideal battlefield for me. Take this!
Oh, so you've come, little one.
Isn't it about time for your retirement?
This one is a big talker. Shouldn't you concentrate on being granted hunter status?
Aw, man! You always were good at figuring people out.
Oh, yes. And of course, I know why you're here, too. So why do you think I'm here?
Know thine enemy, is it? You're a real pain, geezer.
Oh, now, I want you to fight like normal. I need to get good data on you, boy.
Fine with me. I'm no good at holding back, anyway.
Very well, but you've forgotten your true mission.
My true mission?
I see data buried deep within you. Is it memories of the future or false images of the past? Blue, the lies that have infested the earth. Red, those destroyed and sealed away forever.
I don't know what you saw, and I don't care either. My true mission is to defeat you here and now.
You certainly are driven.
I don't have time to listen to your prattling. Ready yourself.
Oh, it hurts!
Heinard?
Oh, it's you that's causing my suffering. Then if I tear you to pieces, the pain will stop.
Don't worry, I have just the cure.
Oh, it hurts!
So, you're that Hyanard. You've been diagnosed with a malfunction. You must come with me.
Oh, it's you that's causing my suffering. Then if I tear you to pieces, the pain will stop.
The sickness is already in its late stages. I don't think he'll come quietly.
How do you figure, Axel? Who'd have thought I'd turn out stronger than you? I'm not the kid you used to know.
But you're acting like a kid right now.
Don't call me a kid. I ain't that no more.
If you keep misbehaving, you won't get your snack.
Blonde hair and a saber? You must be Zero. So they sent an S-Class hunter to stop me, huh? But you'd need a dozen of them to beat me.
How sweet. Looks like you're having a swell time swinging around your new toy.
Stop treating me like a kid. Why, I oughta.
Hey, calm down, or you'll have to take a time out in the corner.
Around and around! Axel, you grow up handsome boy, yeah? But I grow up handsomer boy!
You haven't changed a bit, buddy.
So, you come up electric tower to stop broadcast my groovy dance! Around and around!
Yep, if Red saw it, he'd get mad and smash the monitor anyway.
Oh! Around and around! Welcome to my silly stage! Here goes nothing! Yeah! Boing! What? No funny? But I try so hard, so hard! Okay, try again, huh? Around and around!
Okay, I get the picture. Let's get this over with.